When people think of Youngstown, Ohio, they usually don't think of prosperity. They think about the crime, they think about the poverty, one of the worst in America. But one of the beacons of hope in that community is Youngstown State University. And even though it may not have one of the biggest brands, they've had one of the biggest figures in college athletics come through its doors. Most notably, Jim Tressel, the current president of Youngstown State University. You may note him for having a little bit of success at Ohio State, let's say. But before he was tearing it up at Ohio State, he was leading a dynasty of his own at Youngstown. 4 national championships in 9 seasons. It was a dynasty like the one that we see from Nick Saban. He was the Nick Saban of the FCS. But Youngstown State athletics that we see today is a far cry from those dynasty years in the 90s. The football program, Jim Tressel's baby, is a far cry of that dynasty. Finishing at the bottom of the Missouri Valley, a far cry from their golden years. The basketball program is somehow worse. Despite being around since World War II, they have never seen an NCAA berth into March Madness. They don't know what the brackets are like. And as for their baseball program, one of the more successful programs as of recently, they've only seen 2 NCAA appearances since making the jump up to Division I. The most recent in 2014, more than 7 years ago. Clearly, the athletic programs are not where you would like to be, towards the bottom in all 3 major sports.
And that's where I come in. Hi, I'm John J. Gaming, the new athletic director at Youngstown State, and welcome to the deepest and most challenging dynasty, not only in the NCAA community, but on the entire YouTube platform. I hope you guys are ready for it with me. Let's get it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J. Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with the very first episode of the Youngstown State AD Dynasty. Gonna be featuring multiple games, but we are going to start this thing off in NCAA Football 06, one of the best NCAA football games to ever be created. So it's going to be a good one. Make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you happen to be brand new. And I am so excited to get things rocking here. But before we do anything else, we got to go ahead and take a look at the football roster here at Youngstown State. And honestly, what's going to make things pretty interesting is we don't have a lot of players on this team to start off. We only have 46 players on our roster, and 14 of them are going to be seniors. So definitely going to be filling a lot of needs early on. But that being said, though, we do have some guys that can play, man, that are on this roster. First and foremost, the best player that we do have on this team is Adam Hayden. He's a senior redshirt, 6 foot, 230 pounds. And listen, man, this kid can fly a little bit. 84 speed, 82 awareness. The acceleration is good. He's a nice little all-around back, man. He can do some things for us, out of the backfield. So I'm certainly excited to see, what he can go ahead and bring to the table for us. He is going to be the best player on our roster at 80 overall. But we do have another impact player on the offensive side of the ball. And he's one of your guys' custom recruits, Chris Ty. He's a custom prospect, 6'3", 212. And he's a 2-sport athlete as well. Not only is he on the football team, but he's also on the basketball team as well. Not as good on the basketball court, but he is our starting quarterback. So you love to see that, and he can do some things. Finally, the best defensive player that we have on the team is sophomore redshirt David Silva. He's 6 foot, 240 pounds. He's a kid that, has some, sideline to sideline abilities, definitely has some athleticism. The awareness is pretty decent. Plus, he is only a sophomore, so, I mean, he does potentially have the ability to get himself a little bit better. Maybe someone that could possibly make it to the NFL potentially. I mean, I don't know. You guys will have to tell me down in the comments, who you're most excited about. But beyond that, we do not have a lot of talent on this roster. I mean, Chris Ty and Adam Hayden is on here, but, fullback, we do have Perry Furman. He's okay, 6'1", 285. He is graduating, so we will need a couple of fullbacks. Wide receiver, we have one decent wide receiver in John Langford. He is going to be our number 1 wide receiver this season, with Cam Jones being our number 2 wideout. He's a little bit undersized, but hey, he's a scrappy kid, and I definitely like that from our receiving core, a younger receiving core, one of 4 sophomore wide receivers on this roster. But then after that, we have a lot of improvement, I really think, honestly, across the board. Charles Hambro, our starting tight end, only a 62. Offensive line, not really looking that much better. I mean, for our 3 tackles that we have, only one of them's over 60 overall, and that's Tyler Townsend. Guard, not much more. Isaac Wynn and Cody McCaleb are in the low to mid 60s. And then our center is Mario Robinson. So right away, need to really prioritize getting some hog mollies up in the line of scrimmage, because we are starting a borderline walk-on at right tackle, right? David Reed is our starting right tackle, and yeah, it's going to be a little bit rough on the right-hand side, but we'll have to figure some things out here on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, our defensive side of the ball, we might be a tad bit weaker too. We will have Steve Smith and Sean Barnes, who aren't very talented. Neither is Albert Roth or Mark Swain, both of them in the low 50s. Outside linebacker, our best outside linebacker, Caden Doman, he's not even a full-fledged football player. He's mainly a basketball guy. He actually plays point guard, fun fact of the day. But that being said, he's a 59. He's not that good. But he is going to be starting for us at right outside linebacker. Of course, I talked about David Silva. Now, in the secondary, though, we will have Alonzo Smith, along with William Davis and Nathan Holbert. And I think really our priority is to really develop our young players. And then rounding things out, need a free safety. Mike Bell's at 56. And then Adam Walters will be starting at the strong safety position. So, as you guys can see, definitely have a lot of holes on this roster. But the good news for us is that we are not the only FCS team that is going to be in this dynasty. I'll have to show you the other teams that are in this little dynasty file as well. So Youngstown State will at least be in the Big Ten, and it's going to be a mix of teams that are in the Missouri Valley as well as Ohio Valley Conference. We are projected to finish 5th in the Big Ten this season, and we are going to be with teams like Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Illinois, Murray State, Jacksonville State as well. They are actually making the jump up to the FBS level this upcoming football season in real life. Western Kentucky, who was an FCS team by when this game first came out, they're going to be in the Big Ten. And then rounding out the bottom half of the conference, we got the Tennessee teams in Martin, Tech, and State, as well as Southeastern Missouri State and Samford. So that's going to be the teams that make up the Big Ten. As for the Big 12, we got a lot of the HBCUs, such as Alabama State, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Mississippi Valley, teams like that up in there. I believe Jackson State is also in there, of course, led by Deion Sanders and whatnot. So that'll be interesting to see. Big East is going to be your Ivy League schools. So, your Brown, Princeton, Harvard, teams like that are going to be in this league. Of course, not every FBS team is going to be around. Some of the lesser FCS teams that I couldn't replace are in here. So we do also have Tulane, SMU, Rice, Eastern Carolina, and UCF in this file, and they will start in the top 25. But I imagine as this dynasty goes on, we'll see the FCS teams take over that top 25, given that it's just FCS teams in the Power 5 conferences. independents, there's just one independent in Temple, and we also got Morgan State, UMass, and Rhode Island. Now for the MAC, we do have a few custom teams in the MAC conference. We got Indiana State, Illinois State, and Western Illinois, as well as Southern Illinois with the new teams in the MAC. The Mountain West will also include, I believe this is Southern Missouri State, South Dakota State, and South Dakota, Omaha, Denver, and University of Missouri in Kansas City. They're going to be up in here as well with their football program. They're going to be coming in as like an academic 1-star. And of course, the Pac-12. That's got Eastern Washington, Montana, Montana State, Weber State, Sacramento, Portland State, teams like that. But most notably, North Dakota State. They will have the highest rated team in this dynasty, at least to start things out. We'll see how they can progress as the years go on. SEC is going to be made up of teams like Elon, Nicole State, McNeese State, Wofford, the Citadel, Texas State, as well as teams like Southeastern, Sam Houston, one of those team conferences that do end up having a championship game. App State also in here. This was around the time that they pulled the greatest upset in college football, at least in my lifetime, when they did beat Michigan. And with 2 more conferences left to go, the only conference that actually is not going to be touched is the Sun Belt. What the Sun Belt was like in the early 2000s, that's how it's going to be. And then we round out with the WAC conference. We got teams like Stephen F. Austin, Southern Utah, Oral Roberts, Northern Colorado, and of course St. Thomas. A little bit of a nod from my St. Thomas series that we ran on the channel in a previous time. And finally, the last conference that I want to go into to kind of show what FCS teams are going to be in here is the ACC. We got Bethlehem Cookman, Florida A&M, the Delaware Squads, as well as North Carolina AT State, New Hampshire, Maine, James Madison, South Carolina State, Norfolk, Howard, and Hampton to round out the group. But guys, this is going to be mostly FCS teams. And as you could probably tell from the program prestige, we're all pretty similar, so we have an opportunity to get up on top early, but it's not going to be, this first season or two is going to be critical for us if we want to establish ourselves as one of the best programs in the FCS, at least in this dynasty profile. Now, this Youngstown State squad is going to be led by Jim Falzon. Now, if you recognize that last name, you will find that his 2 kids are actually playing college football right now at the FBS level. One of the kids, of course, playing at the University of Buffalo on the defensive side of the ball. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we will have Julius Falzon, who is currently playing quarterback at the University of Kentucky. Now, Jim Falzon, he played for Syracuse back in the 80s. However, that being said, after seeing his kids go off to college, he had an itch to get back into coaching. The Youngstown State job is open, and courtesy of President Jim Tressel, he is going to get an opportunity in his first head coaching job, by the way, to lead this Youngstown State squad. So I'm really excited to see how that goes down. Definitely a little bit more 50-50 on the pass and run, because honestly, offenses were a little bit different in the early 2000s than we see in 2022. But I'm excited to see what Jim Falzon can do for this program. Now, as for how I want to go about recruiting, I'm not going to have any kind of recruiting restrictions or anything like that, because in NCAA 06, it is much more difficult to recruit than it is in NCAA 14, as it is to generally build a football program. But what I generally want to do and how I want to go about this is I want to make sure that the state of Ohio, we get that locked down. The best players in that state, I want to bring them to Youngstown State. I want this to be the premier program at the FCS level for the Buckeye State. So going after several guys like Michael Hollis, Charles Smith, who is a top 50 player in the Old Spice Red Zone top 50. He's the one of 2 players in Ohio that we are going after. But we are also hampered by the number of needs that we have. So I can't necessarily go talent base. I need to go a little bit more needs based, as I can only go after 12 players in the in-season recruiting. The rest will be done in the off-season. But yeah, we got a ton of needs right now, but still generally I'm going after a lot of 4 stars in the state of Ohio because I want to make sure that I'm bringing those players in. Now I'm also going after some of the better players in the country that aren't in the state of Ohio, such as Jonathan Hudson. He's a 5-star, the only 5-star that we're actually going after. Then we're also going after guys like Lewis Williams, who plays DB, Thomas McDougal, who's a 4-star from Rifle, Colorado, and then, of course, Ed Dixon from Nephi, Utah. So mostly Ohio guys I'm going after, but I will also go after the top prospects throughout the country outside of the state. So with the lack of players that we do have on our team right now, we are not going to redshirt anybody this upcoming season, but this is what our schedule is going to look like. We'll have a bye week, week number 1, but then after that, we will get into non-conference play. We will start with our season opener against Illinois State and follow that up with a matchup against top 15 opponent Temple. Then we finish most of non-conference play with North Carolina A&T State. Then after that, we will jump into conference play. We'll take on the likes of Murray State, EKU, Tennessee State, Southeast Missouri State, Western Kentucky, Eastern Illinois, and Tennessee Martin on the road, and then round out our Big Ten conference play with a home matchup against Jacksonville State. That will be our senior day. However, that will not be our final matchup of the season, as we will have one more game, a road game against Southern Utah, who was one of the teams that I did end up creating in order to make this FCS Dynasty possible. So how I kind of want to go about the pacing of this series is I want to shoot for 1 episode per game month. So for the month of September in this game, we'll have an episode for that. And we're obviously not going to play every single game between football, basketball, and baseball, right? We're going to play some games, but then we're also going to simulate some games as well. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on moving forward. That being said, in this first episode, what I want to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead. We're going to play the season opener against Illinois State. And then we're also going to play this ranked matchup against the Temple Owls. And then end the episode with simulating games against NCAA, Murray State as well before we jump into recruiting. So that's kind of how I kind of want to do things. 1 episode per month, unless obviously it's like a conference tournament game or a NCAA playoff game or even a bowl game here at football, because I don't think there is a Big Ten championship during this era. But I hope you guys are still excited, and if you are, feel free to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you have to be brand new. Shoot, even hit up my notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you guys can get that in my inbox, and I hope you guys are ready for it. But with that being said, this is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.